Hey, this is Michael Lee Hill, and I'm attempting to do my first podcast. This is really weird for me, you know. I've always considered myself to be more than a Keith than a Mick, you know. I'm pretty well happy being on the back of the stage and having a guitar and having someone else out front. But, you know, sometimes God laughs at those who makes plans. And, you know, I do this because, first of all, I do feel very fortunate that I've been Christed or anointed with star knowledge. And star knowledge is all about the actual physics of how our life works, how this universe works. And it's all about light and sound and how what we experience as reality, and it is created from light and sound. But these are the subjects that we're going to be getting into. Give me a swig of lemonade. So we're going to be talking about a lot of subjects, and this first one I've put together a slideshow, and obviously those tuning in through the first broadcast through Spreaker, you will be able to go to my personal YouTube page. It's Michael Lee Hill, and you'll be able to listen to what I'm saying, hopefully with the actual graphics and photographs that go with these images and crop circles and whatnot. Time will tell. Well, why am I even talking to you? Or do you care, you know? Well, I guess it's because I started filming these UFOs over Lake Erie. And it began one night. Like, I've had contact my whole life, but there's a point where it changed from something just a little odd and weird, people showing up in your life and knowing things they shouldn't have known and things like that. It changed to where I was seeing physical craft and actually experiencing contact, and not just through physical ways. Their contact is multidimensional, and it can pretty much come through anything or anyone. So that's kind of something new we need to discuss. But I started to accumulate quite a library of this footage over Lake Erie. And I was contacted by the History Channel, and they said that they were doing a show on UFO skywatchers, and they wanted to know if I'd be interested to do the show. I said, yeah, sure, you know, I love the subject and I'm fascinated, you know. So what happens is they go and they interview another guy. His name was Terrell Copeland, and they went to Washington because he was another skywatcher and he was going to be involved on this show. But what they found out was not only, you know, was he seeing these orbs of light, but he had made contact with these beings. And simultaneously, the military, he was a Marine, they did a medical workup and a blood work test, and it showed he had an unknown blood anomaly. And he had an honorary discharge from the military. None of the best civilian doctors could figure out what this blood anomaly is. And we'll get into that too, because obviously that's why we're talking. But anyhow, they thought, man, they found out that this guy, Terrell Copeland, had an unknown blood anomaly that none of the best doctors in the world could figure out. And what else was weird was he had filmed the same UFOs that I had over Lake Erie, and had the same type of encounters, both with, you know, we can get into my being contacted by the secret NSA faction that is reverse engineering and remote viewing, but we'll get into that as well. They thought these guys have filmed the same UFOs, had the same story of contact with these beings who their spiritual message really is to pay attention to what you're thinking about. Think about what you're thinking about, because thoughts become things. And if you don't have a grip on your own mental energies, you will manifest what you fear. It's just actually pretty pure science. So learn to weed your own belief system, all the thought forms that are fear-based and lack and doubt. Learn to look them in the eye and go, what else is available? I've heard you speak before, and yeah, I get it, but now I know there are other things available. So what else is available? And what I learned is focus on the thought form that has the most love-filled outcome for all involved. Any other thought is a trip back into the Maya, man. And if you think about it, what does this have to do with, everyone talks about free will. Yeah, free will is you have the ability to jump back into Maya and the illusion, but there's only one thought-filled outcome for all involved. That's divine will. There's only one. And if there's only one proper choice, what's that have to do with free will? You don't have free will. You have the will of the one that is creator and is flowing through all things and all ones. That's what you have to connect with. And so, boy, I haven't even got into the show yet. Well, sure enough, I ended up with the same blood anomaly. The History Channel was like, man, let's get these two guys that don't know each other, but they have the exact same story and the same footage. Let's bring them to Boston University Hospital and have Harvard professor David Systrom do their blood work and see, wouldn't it be weird if both of these guys had the exact same unknown blood anomaly, because the History Channel found out our footage was the same, and etc., etc. So on that show, it's called Alien Contact, by the way, and it's in season 1 of UFO Hunters. It was revealed that I had the same blood anomaly, this unknown blood anomaly. And we can get into what that is at a later date, because I'm going to be doing a lot of these shows. But, yeah, I had an unknown blood anomaly, and that's what started all of this. We also started, whoa, did you hear that? I hit a, forget it. Hang on. You're hearing me put my lemonade down. Man, I got a great mic. It picks up everything. What, you hear that weird bass sound? Let's see. Oh yeah, I can rock out on that. There's a chain that holds the desk door that I got the microphone on. So I got my own sound effects. But let's move on. What I've learned is one can learn to align oneself with galactic source energy through 432 base frequency and 369 sacred geometry and knowledge. That's a mouthful. So, learning to align oneself with galactic source energy. It's pure light. We'll get into the frequency of 432 is truly the only frequencies that are harmonics of light. 432 squared becomes the speed of light. And then think of Einstein's equation. Let's run it backwards. 432 frequencies squared becomes c, which is the speed of light within 1% accuracy. Then multiply by mass equals energy. 432 base frequencies squared becomes c squared times mass equals energy. It's very interesting because of Richard Hoagland. He had me on his show recently, well, a year ago or so, and he said, we know your story sounds crazy to most people, but he works with NASA, and he said NASA's been looking into how energy works multidimensionally for a very long time, and He calls it hyperdimensional physics. So he said, we happen to know your numbers are right on the money. He said, we know this because 432 numbers that you're bringing onto the table also correspond to the precessional cycle, which we'll get into why this is so important. But think of all the precessional cycle numbers built into all these ancient sites all over the planet. And now you learn, oh my God, these are musical information. Because when the A is tuned properly to 432 instead of 440, our musical standard right now was set by a Nazi scientist in the 1940s to a worldwide standard of A equals 440 hertz. What you find out with today's top science, technology like a cymoscope, cymatics, is that 440 hertz is about the most disharmonious frequency you could have even chosen. That it doesn't create any complexity or dimensionality or form within the human structure, which is a droplet of water. But when that exact same water is used, but the frequency is changed to A equals 432 hertz, all of a sudden there's this beautiful geometry and symmetry that appears out of nowhere. There's a toroidal physics donut that is opening a wormhole between this and another dimension to bring through energy. And as fantastic as this sounds, I now have NASA scientific data to back all of this up. And truly what this means for humanity, I guess we're all going to find that out as this unfolds. But how did this, man, I'm going to ramble on. I got all time. I got 3 hours, I think, for this podcast. So sit back. So because of this contact with these beings, and both in the physical and starting mental telepathic communication, they had reported back to me when I met them. This wasn't anything channeling or remote viewing or anything. This was when I met them in person. They said that we were once known as the Anunnaki in your past, and you were once known as the water bearer, Ea Inki. And this was in 2008. I didn't know what an Anunnaki was, and I sure as hell didn't know what a water bearer, Ea Inki, was. But that's what they told me. And so a little bit after that, I learned to meditate and get into a pretty deep state of, I'm good at it, I'll just say that. And I came in contact with these beings, and we started having a conversation. And I said, listen, if you are who you say you are, the Anunnaki, because there was very little information at that point. There was no ancient aliens, there was, I looked, believe me, once I met them, I went to Google, and there was very little. Now everyone talks about the Anunnaki. Well, at this time, I didn't know who the Anunnaki was. So, if I didn't know who the Anunnaki was, I sure didn't know who Ea Inki, the water bearer, was. So I asked them for confirmation at a later date. This would have been about early 2009. I said, if you are who you say you are, and I am who you say I am, encode the name Ea Inki into a crop circle. And that'll be my confirmation that you are who you say you are, and I am who you say I am. And my next thought was how silly to see a big crop circle show up and it just says, like, in cursive, Inky, like it's a big birthday cake, I'm thinking, well, that isn't that cool, I'm like, well, you'll figure out a way, encode it some way that's different. And I pay attention to the crop circle subject. I am a student, I told them. So I said, encode it with the names Ea Inki. And then I got really cocky, I remember. I said, encode it with something only I would be able to decode. And I just left it at that, and that was in 2009. So let's go to 2011. Now, mind you, that's a couple of years in between of there was no answer. I was just in we'll wait and see mode, you know. But during this time, they started to guide me into what I call cosmic harmonious frequencies. And it's frequencies of nature that ties one to that galactic energy we were talking about. It all comes full circle. But I said encode the name Inky and encode it with something that only I would be able to decode. So what we're looking at is the actual crop circle that showed up in 2011. I forgot the date, but what you're seeing is a 7-pointed star, which is very important. And around it, you see these rows of circles. Some of them are filled in, like, you know, open, closed, open, 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 open. Or, you know, a clear dot, dot, no dot, no dot, no dot, no dot. That's ASCII binary code. And when you decode it, it's Ia space Inky. So this became an important crop circle to me because they answered our, you know, communication. The NSA called it, they knew we had a handshake that we can get into this, but it was a two-way street that not only was I getting communication from the Anunnaki from other dimensions, but we had a handshake. And when I looked at the best weather data given to us by the NSA, they said, we know you're not a weatherman, but the ones that you're in contact with will be looking through your eyes. You'll be their iPhone. iPhone. They said, we know that you don't know what to do with this data. It's weather systems. We're talking about Hurricane Sandy, by the way, in 2012. We were given all the scientific data, and I have all that. I've released it to the world, by the way, because it gets into what has happened with this most recent worldwide mass meditation. It's a continuation of some a spiritual science where people are going to realize our own power, you know, to create a better reality. And yes, I'm talking about the coronavirus, and I'm also talking right smack dab. It was April 4th. It started about 10:45, and then there was mass meditations. All of us combined our mental energy to choose a better outcome, you know? We'll get into that as well. Man, there's so much stuff to get into, but this is kind of cool because I got all the time I want. This is a graphic of that crop circle. A team that I was working with painstakingly took the data out of the crop circle and created these really high resolution graphics that I use for my t-shirts and products as well. Because I think these symbols, man, they're encoded with energy. And this one specifically, if you look where it would be about, about 4 o'clock on the outside row of what would be like the flower edge, there's one circle. It's the only circle around that whole outer perimeter of that 7-pointed object. Notice, you know, we're going to get into why the 7 is so important. It's really freaking cool, but anyhow, there's one circle that tells you in ASCII binary code where to start your decoding. Now look right below it. There's what looks like 3 star constellations. And those star constellations, they're in each of the petals of that flower going around that 7-pointed star. If you see, just go around clockwise. There's 3 of them. 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 5. So they told me, Michael, this, first of all, they guided me in those years between early 2009 and 2011 when this crop circle showed up. It was all guiding me into cymatics, and specifically about a cosmic harmonious frequency that was like the granddaddy of everything, and that was 432 hertz. So, up until right when this showed up, this crop circle, this inky crop circle, through cymatics, I had learned that every frequency had a geometric shape attached to it. And I had tracked down all 7 notes of the musical scale with the accurate cymatic image of the frequency or musical note. And it was unbelievable. But I make these crystal glass, I call them Anunnaki energy discs. Oh shit, sorry about that. These discs they were originally called Pleiadian healing discs. And the idea was to take quartz crystal glass, really high quality stuff we're talking about, and encode these. Well, originally it was just anything. What was important was what you were encoding. And they said if you think about like pyramid power, that certain geometry has certain subtle energy properties, then, you know, well, if cymatics has shown you how much geometry is being formed through frequency, it'd probably be really important to figure out which ones are creating proper geometry. So I had a 7-disc set of these frequencies that I had tracked down of the musical scale tuned properly to a standard of A equals 432. The last one I made was of the A note, and what you need to know is if you had a piano sitting in front of you, and this is really important to remember these numbers, it's not hard, believe me. Let me get a sip of lemonade. Okay. I told you this is going to be rough, but hey, it's the coronavirus wisdom party, episode 1. By the way, this is my first Spreaker, I believe it's called, podcast, and I'm going to be doing a bunch of these, talking about a lot of things, but I'm going to get back to what I was talking about because I don't want to lose my train of thought. I do often, I call it spinning out, but we're going to try not to have that happen. So, before I had made this set of 7 musical notes encased in quartz crystal glass with a copper wrap, and man, just go to my website, michaelleehill.com, if you want to see what I'm talking about, but up until then, I just gotta talk. So, right before, on that Saturday, sitting outside, because of this crop circle and how important it was, I'm trying to move the page and it's not allowing me. Oh, because it's recording and it's going, you're recording, you idiot, you can't stop time and go back. Anyhow, the photograph, I put it into a quartz crystal glass. I'm talking of the actual real inky crop circle. And Chief Golden Light Eagle owns that actual disc, by the way. I only made one. And when I got done is when I put together the 7 musical note disc set. When I got to the A note, which, again, I got to go back and get back to the piano. Oh, if you're MIDI, slow down. Okay. In the middle of your piano is an A note, and it's tuned right now to 440 hertz. But what we're saying is, no, get your piano tuner back to your house and telling him, I want that middle A note to now be 432 hertz. It's a lot easier for guitars with digital guitar tuners, by the way. But anyhow, piano, not so easy. You got to get the guy back out. So it's great for this example. But that's you're only the middle note in your piano. There's still a lower A note on your piano, and then a lower one than that, and then a lower one. In music, those are called octaves. But it's really simple math, actually, that Yes. It was Pythagoras actually who understood and like remembered, and all of this information came out. Like if you double any frequency, you get its octave, it's called. So if you're at 432, it'd be 864. If you go to the, one complete octave higher on your piano. But if you went to the lower A note on your piano, it would be 432 divided by 2, which would give you 216. So if you wanted to have precisely your A note in the middle and one A note lower on the piano, you would tune them to 432 hertz and 216 hertz. Now to get to the next note on your piano, you're going to have to divide it by another 2. So 216 divided by 2 is 108. 108 is really interesting because Tibetan monks have like 108 prayer beads on their prayer bracelets. They will chant certain, spiritual songs for 108 times. But so getting back to your piano, astral piano, that if you wanted to find even the lower A note, then just divide that 108 by 2 and it's 54. Then its lowest note, if you take 54 and divide it, it's 27. So 27 hertz is exactly 4 octaves below 432 hertz. They're forever connected and intertwined, and if one changes, the other one changes. But 27 hertz is actually just about, if our hearing is really good, because the lowest we can hear is 20 hertz, and we're talking about 27 hertz. So probably you and I wouldn't even hear that low of a frequency, but when it's pumped through water and it's put through a cymatic device, today's leading science, which shows, it makes the invisible visible. It shows for the very first time the geometry that's being formed by nothing alone but frequency. So when you pump 27 hertz, 4 octaves below 432 into a cymatic scientific device, what you get, this is showing you, this is the 440 hertz through one of these scientific cymatic devices, which uses water. You see, there's no structure. It looks like garbage on the right. But on the left is the 432 A note tuned properly, and look at the symmetry, and there's more energy. And the way to even think about this, guitarists, is if you had your acoustic guitar in front of you and you had it tuned to A equaling 440 hertz, all the notes, the musical actual waveforms leaving your instrument is going to be looking like the right side. But if you did nothing else but tune that A string to 432, then all of the rest of the strings, everything that comes out of your guitar is going to be focused like the water and the sound on the left side. What I can tell you as a guitarist is it's almost like if there was an intensity knob, or how much can you feel the vibrations coming from the instrument. It's not even talking about what it sounds like. I'm saying, what does it feel like? Because the difference is amazing. But it only happens when the guitar is tuned properly, and it happens to be the only frequencies in the universe that tie one in to galactic harmonious frequency. This is, at the bottom you see the source is Stanford University. I just want to show you, when we're talking the A432 note, and that's just one note. So look at the third row over. Obviously, it's the most harmonic numbers from Stanford University. This is exactly what we're talking about. The third row over is the A note. If you go all the way down, you'll see, what the G, D, A, E, B, F sharp, C is. Look in the third row over, fourth one down, it's in yellow, it's 432. So as we said, if your piano, if you wanted that lower octave to be accurate, look, it's 216. And then if you wanted that lower A note, you tune it to 108, and then 54, and then 27. These numbers are so important, but I just want you to know that also, you know, what if you want a D note? Well, it's not 432 anymore. It's going to be 144. That's interesting, huh, that number? Which, it gets into all of this, by the way. But this is amazing because it's every musical note, every note frequency of every octave for every note tuned properly to the Pythagoras tuning, which just really means your A is going to be at 432. If your A note is tuned properly to 432, and then all the notes just fall in place, there's nothing else to do. But what's interesting is when you look at this and look over 1, 2, 3 columns all the way to the bottom, you know, in blue is 186,624. That's the speed of light, you know. It's, as I was saying, sound gives birth to light, and 432 bass frequencies are the only frequencies that are truly harmonics of light and can tie mankind into aligning oneself with galactic universal energy. And so, strap in, we're going to even get deeper into all this. This is the A note, as I was saying, through a cymatic device. And you can see the perfect 7-pointed star. Now, mind you, it's being held in shape by nothing but frequency, an A note tuned properly. Remember, if that A note would have been tuned to A equals 440, that would look like a puddle of mud right now. And, you know, mind you, as you look at these photos and think, we are made of water. So would you want your cells in your body all vibrating like this and creating these type of sacred geometry and energy portals to bring more energy into you at a cellular level through nothing but tuning yourself to the proper frequencies? I'm going to choose this, you know. This is the show that this shape has been known throughout history. I'm talking about the 7-pointed star, which was featured in that Inky crop circle. And by the way, when I asked them to encode it with something only I would be able to decode, when I made that 7-pointed star cymatic image disc, like I said, it was just previously that I mean, that same day, I made the Inky crop circle disc. I hadn't put 2 and 2 together yet. I sat there and I got done with the cymatic 27 hertz, you know, cymatic image disc. And when I was done, I just started staring at that 7-pointed star. And I was thinking, why does that look so familiar? And man, the answers never came. I sat and really stared and thought hard and nothing. And this voice was just like, let it go, it'll come. And so I was like, all right, heck with it. And I just looked away from my mental third eye, you know, and looked down, and I seen that Inky crop circle, and it was based on the 7-pointed star. Man, the tears flowed. It was what I asked for. Encode it not only with Inky, but encode it with something only I would be able to decode. And they encoded it with the 7-pointed star, which we find out is Inky star anyhow, back to Sumer and all throughout. But this is how it ties to A equaling 432. A in ancient Hebrew is the hooked X, by the way. That's interesting. That totally gets into what we're going to get into in the future. But anyhow, the 7-pointed star, they did encode it with something only I would be able to decode. I had just made the 7-disc set and knew the relationship of the 432 hertz frequency to sacred geometry and the 7-pointed star specifically. So when I realized they encoded it with 432 information in that Inky crop circle, man, like I said, tears. I was like, it was confirmation to me. But that was only the beginning of a 5 crop circle communication classroom I was taken into. We're at class 1, Inky crop circle. But what I started learning about was how the 7-pointed star going back in history was just used everywhere. This is the Babylonian map of the world. It's a 432 hertz related 7-pointed star. So what I found out is, first of all, this intelligence behind this crop circle phenomenon, the Anunnaki. They use time multidimensionally, and many times through crop circles have communicated multidimensionally. The Arecibo crop circle is one example. I'm sure a lot of people will know what I'm talking about. That the one where like the alien face holding the, like, looks like a computer disk with a binary code. And then before that was the Arecibo telescope, where we sent out a graph of, you know, who we were as a people and our position in the solar system and how, you know, our DNA and typical height and all of this. And it was put in the binary and shot. It's taken out in. Holy crap! I'm sorry, I hit my table. Probably sounded horrible. Where was I now? The year prior to the Inky crop circle was the crop circle on the left, and it was in the exact same town in Italy, Verona. Italy, end of June, you can see right there, was on the left, and that is encoding E equals MC squared. And then the bottom was the first one of the communication. But these were 1 year apart. And similarly, what I was trying to say back for Arecibo was not only did they respond in the field to our Arecibo communication that was sent out, I believe Carl Sagan had something to do with that, but we got a response, I believe it was 2001. And what you find out is the bottom of the one we sent out was how we communicated, and it was a little graph picture of a telescope. Well, their response, it looked like mind bubbles. But if you go back 1 year, you find out in the exact same field, they laid down that graphic only as like a 3D HD version of what they were going to put the next year as the source of their communication. You can check all this out. Just type in Arecibo crop circle, and then you'll see what I'm talking about. So, in all actuality now, this one on the left, which appeared in 2010, and is encoding E equals MC squared. And then the next year was the Inky 7-pointed star crop circle. So instantly I thought, well, if they're using time as part of the teaching curriculum, what does 432 have to do with E equals MC squared? And that's when all of this started to unfold, that 432 is E equals MC squared. Think of E equals energy, M equals mass, C is the speed of light. So 432 base frequency squared becomes the speed of light, squared becomes mass. If we put in photons in what we're working with, then it equals energy. So anyhow, this is the E equals MC squared graphic of the team I had, and it was cool. They're like, tell us what crop circles you want detailed information on. So these were it, and it's great to have these as a teaching modality right now. Those circles is ASCII binary code again, and it's E equals MC squared. That's the actual crop circle. This was, I believe, 2005, no, it was after that. 2015, I'm sorry. This showed up. It's interesting as well because the crescent moon is Inky's symbol back in Sumer, and it's also the eclipse, which is very prominent in Ea Inky, and White Buffalo Calf Woman's stories going back. Do you hear our bird, Cooper? This crop circle showed up, and it was a very big indicator to me, because there was the 7-pointed star again that they had communicated to me the importance of. Didn't even know at that time that they also encoded this with the name Inky Ea, because I didn't know that the crescent moon eclipse symbol was associated with Inky, but now I do. But in early days on Earth, as we just said, Inky's symbol was the crescent moon. So this was still them answering me with information regarding time, frequency, through crop circles. Well, what happened is, I just don't want you to get bored, is after I went through these 5 crop circles, which we're going to go through them all right now, what frequency that they pinpointed to me, I hired the world's best cymatic image makers to create the A432 image, which is what I encased in quartz crystal glass because of my being tutored by those that are not from here into making an energy device. That's what went to NASA, and what NASA has now confirmed. It opens up a portal and brings energy through another dimension into this planet. And I have this isn't just me talking new age woo-woo. You know, I have scientific GDV photography from the world's leading biophysicist of normal municipal tap water. 6 photographs. This is what it looks like. A GDV camera photographs how much photonic energy is within the droplet of water. The brighter, the more energy. Is pretty simple. The images of control municipal tap water, it's almost non-existent. I've got to talk to some of the best biophysicists now in the world, and they told me we usually don't even image municipal tap water because it's pretty much dead. There's no energy left, so why even try to look at it? But what they did was then took that same tap water and put it on one of my 432 base frequency discs and let it just sit there, use it as a coaster for 15 minutes. Then they took the water out of that glass and tested it once again with their GVD, photography. And man, it looks like a little supernova exploded within the droplet of water. And water is pretty much what our cells get its energy from. So if we're drinking dead water, how do you think your cells are gonna respond? Not very well. But now all of a sudden its energy source is just it's actually got energy coming in from another dimension. And this is proven by NASA. I know it sounds freaking crazy, but I never had to think, well, what's it mean to be drinking water that has energy from another dimension in it? Well, I can tell you, we'll get into this because that code that was given in that Inky crop circle points to what is called a universal stress protein in human DNA, and it's an indicator that using this technology, which I just call making 432 water, which is just using one of these discs as a coaster. It's simple, stupid. That it will change the molecular state of that water droplet on a quantum level. And it's verifiable because now there's way more light, more photonic energy, as proven by NASA. So I asked the scientist, if they had no energy, but now there's energy, well, isn't that some form of unlimited free energy? And I said, where's it coming from? Is it coming from our realm? These electromagnetic fields around the planet and our sun and our planets? She said, no. The energy's coming from another dimension. And boy, that really I had to stop and think about that, because another dimension isn't just another place. It adds another dimension on whatever you're intending to do with it. It's like an intention amplifier. I've heard it now called a quantum reality accelerator, whatever. It can amplify and align you with cosmic energy. And if your thoughts and desires and wishes are also in tune, man, your thoughts will go to Creator with great enthusiasm. And we can also get into, this is all going to lead into knowledge of the 7 human energy. They're called chakras. Most people refer to them. But every chakra has an associated color and note, and therefore frequency. And from red in the root to purple in the crown. And those are the 7, through the 7 colors of the rainbow are the 7 chakras of the human body. And what one of the grandmothers of the Native American Indian culture told me was, every chakra has its own star tetrahedron, like a Merkaba star David, spinning, but only when it's spinning freely, without that it's balanced. And will it spin fast enough to emit light? And only when all 7 are spinning and all emitting light does spirit recognize you as rainbow, because those are the colors of the rainbow. And only when one has obtained rainbow spiritual status that any extra manifestation ability is given by spirit. It's truly being Christed, because they know, if you had 7 of your chakras totally clean, but 1 was dirty and dark, and all of a sudden spirit gave you the ability to light encode reality matrix, learn, manifest physical reality right from mental energy. If you were also had a darkness in your root chakra and you started to experience all your surroundings, like the rug being pulled out from under you, and also because you haven't cleaned that chakra that deals with root survival, roof over your head, feeling confident that you're loved and taken care of in this universe. If you don't believe that, it's going to show up as doubt and non-belief in your root chakra energy field. And energy can't be created or destroyed. It needs to be transmuted. So how do you transmute a negative thought form? Well, you live it, and these lower frequency experiences come up, and they are real, but once you can look it in the face, and because energy can't be created or destroyed, it needs to be transmuted. You transmute a negative thought form by living it, for it coming up in your own personal face and close and personal, for you to go, no, I don't believe that anymore. I believe there's better options available. What else is available? Once you can stop yourself from reacting instantly, because that's the mass consciousness. Well, which nothing wrong with that. But so thoughts also, think about frequencies that are attached to thought forms that attach you with galactic universal energy. Well, what they told me was, that's why it's so important for the Native Americans to, when they say that they found a human that has cleaned their chakra systems through their own spiritual homework, that they're said to be, they've become the whirling rainbow. And then type in whirling rainbow prophecy of, it's what's happening right now. It's pretty freaking cool. But we're talking about this knowledge of how to align oneself through frequency, sound, and the proof now that it actually brings energy in. It's amazing, but we're going forward. This one was really interesting because it showed up in 2016. And again, I instantly, this is a 7-pointed star. It's from Inky again. See these symbols going around it? And, it looks like a 6 almost. That's a Mayan symbol for a Mayan. It's called a Baktun. and it's one long count in the Mayan calendar, and it's 144,000 days. Isn't it weird, with the 144 being in the frequency grid of 432 to begin with? But so every one of these symbols, there's 14 symbols. What you need to understand is the old Mayan calendar ended on the 13th Baktun. And they said it wasn't like the end of the world. It was just the end of the age of Aries and the beginning of the age of Aquarius. Out of Pisces into Aquarius, this fabled age of Aquarius. Well, I'm thinking, well, if we know each one of these equals 144,000 days, what's 144,000 times 14? You get 2160,000,000, 2016. But 216 is also 432 divided by 2, one octave below 432 again. But this crop circle is telling us the accurate date for our entry into the age of Aquarius was December 21st, 2016, not 2012. We'll get into why that's pretty interesting, but this crop circle again, so age of Aquarius, Zachariah Sitchin said Enki was the prototype for the age of Aquarius, the man holding the bucket of water, the water bearer, and think of this now, all this is starting to really come clear to me that when I met the Anunnaki, they told me I was once known as the water bearer. Well, do you know what it felt like now, years later, to have NASA prove that something I brought through the ether is actually resurrecting, revitalizing dead water back into living water? Now I can look someone in the eye and go, yeah, am I the water bearer? Yeah, I am the water bearer. You want a sip? I keep hitting that, but I think it sounds cool. I've never done this before, just to talk randomly. Doing crap. I'm doing the best I can, people. All right. That's that actual crop circle. The 14 Baktuns entry into the age of Aquarius, 7-pointed star crop circle that showed up. Oh, this was Sitchin. The zodiacal cycle returns to exactly the same spot every 25,920 years. We'll get into why that's important. So we are now leaving the age of Pisces. Enki was the prototype god of Aquarius. Whether this means that it's all going to happen again and Enki is coming back, well, yeah, I'm right here. I don't know. There are a lot of signalings and signs that all point in that direction. Correct, sir. Zachariah Sitchin. The NSA, when I was brought in, they told me that him and his son were even more accurate than they knew. That everything gets translated through that person's lens, but for that time and what, it's accurate. What isn't there is the aspect of, the trickster and the skinwalker, which is going to be revealed through the Skinwalker Ranch show. And that intelligence, which the Native American Indians call the trickster, is the Anunnaki. So anyhow, this is talking about the 14th Baktun Mayan long count calendar symbols around the recent crop circle. The 14th Baktun is a turning point in the Hopi prophecy, the age of Aquarius, which also describes how the earth will become a peaceful place where the people will live free on the land once again. And yes, that's what we're right at the beginning of. Believe it or not, looking out the blinds can be scary. I've often been told if you peek out the blinds into the mass realities, consciousness, you may experience things that would make anyone go insane and things that will scare you to the depths of your soul. And they told me, don't peek out the blind. Wrap it up tight in your third eye and don't let it in. But then it was really some Heyoka magic, as the end of it, I found out you got to look out the blinds. You know. Anyhow, here's showing Inky back in Sumerian depictions, and sorry about that. In Aquarius, you know, both Inky was always depicted holding a pitcher or a bucket of water. Was not a man purse, and Aquarius is always holding a bucket of water. Inky was always holding a bucket of water. Inky back in Sumer, and you know, he was also shown with water erupting from his shoulders, signifying the water bearer. He was either holding pails of water, or water was erupting from his joints and his shoulders. Okay, and this is the most important one. This is the fifth one. I almost just, well, I can't come back. Okay. One night, I was laying there in bed, and when I say they, and those who are not from here, they wouldn't let me sleep. They're like, Michael, you gotta get up and divide a circle by 7. And so I did. And what you get is 360 divided by 7 is 51.428. I'm like, well, yeah, you got me up for this. Why is that important? And the first thing I found was it's associated with the slope of the pyramid in Egypt. I thought, wow, that's really important. But they also showed me that from 1/7 away around a circle, they showed me it in my third eye and just like highlighted it with a astral Sharpie, and went 1/7 away around a circle, then let the rest of the circle fall away, and it left, you know, like a frowny face. You know, that was exactly 1/7 away around the circle, and I'll tell you, at that point they said that's the Ark of the Covenant, and they said it's not an ARK, it's an ARC. And then they showed me that same arc mirrored below itself, and it swung up underneath to create an eyeball shape, if you follow. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And I asked them, I said, I would really like to see that shape as a 7-pointed star, because they've been guiding me into the 7-pointed star and the significance for years now, and it pretty much obsessed me with chasing down that rabbit hole. I thought, man, what would that look like as a 7-pointed star? Well, this showed up the next day. And it is a 7-pointed star made out of those 1/7 Ark of the Covenant, 51.428. So, you know what's really strange with this is all these crop circles, many people know they're showing up in the UK. And that particular place, that Stonehenge and Avebury and all those ancient mound sites, they are located along a very particular ley line. And it's, I mean, everyone knows about it. Type in St. Michael ley line or St. Michael and Mary ley line, because there's actually two. I do not have it. I've been talking for a half hour. Yeah. Sorry about that. If that doesn't just come in and mess things up in a jiffy. The 51.428 is the precise latitude line on Earth that goes through Avebury and Stonehenge. So let me say this again. Look at the actual Earth's latitude line of 51.428. Follow it, it goes right through the UK, and where that 51.428 is the most energetic ley line of dragon energy. And all along this line has been 7-pointed star crop circles and mounds and ancient temples and earthworks all laid around this particular 51.428, 1/7 way around a crop circle, angle of the pyramids, and the 7-pointed star is always related to 432, sound. So I think some serious things are being decoded and unlocked. Moving on. That's the graphic of this most recent crop circle. There's some mind-blowing footage of this that was filmed from a drone, and highly recommend it. Just type in crop circle drone footage. There's a bunch of this guy's work. That's the actual crop circle. But do you see how it's a 7-pointed star? Now, mind you, going backwards in time, we've seen a lot of 7-pointed stars that were all male lines, all no curves, straight lines. This is the first 7-pointed star that's all feminine. It's all curves and made from curves. Very specific Vesca Pisces or Piscis, tomato. When some of you know what I'm talking about. If you take two circles and then you bring them together, there forms an eye shape. And most sacred geometry is created in such a manner. What this is showing us is those Vesca Pisces should be 51.428 arcs to tap into energy fields in an appropriate manner, I do believe. But this is showing that same last crop circle as this is so important. We'll start with at the bottom right. That's what is called the seed of life now, and you can see it's 7 circles. It's 1 in the middle, and then 6 around it that make the old seed of life. If you look in the middle, it's the Merkaba shape. It's the Star of David. It's a 6-petaled flower. And I would like to think of it as humanity 1.0, where we are in 3D land. This is the blueprint for what we call reality. And it encodes all the geometry of everything we can experience. All we've ever known, when you look back at Leonardo da Vinci's artwork and him studying these things, this 6-pointed seed of life, which turns into what's called the flower of life. When you expand it out to 48 circles, you get the flower. This is just the seed. But now look over to your left of this new crop circle. It's a 7-petaled flower made all of Vesca Piscis, just like the old seed of life. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a brand new seed of life, sacred geometry that's never been seen on this planet. Imagine if this is the reality, that the construction from above, heaven, is adhering to the Merkaba in this shape. And everything we perceive in our reality, from our own mental thoughts to our physical reality, leads back to this blueprint. Now, over here to the left, this is where we are now. It's 7-petaled. Imagine how much more fertile ground and non-confinement. It's like if the one on the bottom, that seed of life, was caterpillar human 1.0. On the left here, that's butterfly human 3.0, maybe 5.0. I've even heard. But this is big news. So along 51.428 ley line on this planet, called the St. Michael and Mary ley line, this crop circle shows up that shows the new seed of life, sacred geometry for all of existence. Pretty cool. There it is. Just isn't it mind-blowing in the complexity and beautifulness that's being communicated? Here's what's interesting now. The heptagram, 7-pointed star of it suggests a passage from Revelation when I saw another angel coming up fast from the east, having the seal of the living God. Well, what was made very apparent to me was, you do know that the seal of the 7 archangels, when you look in, more Gnostic teachings, and who was, the seal of the 7 archangels, their leader was Michael. So a seal of the 7 archangels appeared around St. Michael's ley line, which is 51.428, which is the hidden angle in the pyramid, man. I know it's also multi-dimensional and a fun release of energy, though. Like, it really can't be debated, or, if anyone wants to debate me on any of this, bring it. I look forward to it. This is the actual seal of the 7 archangels, and yeah. It's almost as if the sky god, let's start that over. It's almost as if the sky god visitors, who the Sumerians called the Anunnaki, provided humanity with a counting system that would lead to the discovery of these synchronicities. Could it be that the number 432 really is some kind of cosmic key that unlocks a language of higher understanding? And if so, have these sky visitors ever come back to make sure we don't miss the importance of the 432 matrix? The key 432 math magic factors are, I took math magic from Donald Duck in Math Magic Land. Man, if you haven't seen it, you need to see it. It's super encoded. All right, 4 key 432 math magic factors. Our number system, 60 and 12 base math and number systems. Time itself, the Earth's 25,920 year precessional cycle, and the physics of the creation of our own solar system. The 60 and 12 base math and number system, Sumerian and Babylonian mathematics, which was based on a sexagesimal or base 60 number system, which could be counted physically using the 12 knuckles on one hand and the 5 fingers on the other hand. First off, 12 times 60 is 720, 72. Remember this number for later. Got it? Time itself. The idea of dividing large whole units by 12 is a common theme the ancients left with us. Smaller division should be by 60. Dividing or multiplying a whole unit by 12, this idea they left us. Look at how many inches are in a foot or hours in a day, or, it's encoded within everything of our reality, really. 1 second equals, whoa, I can't go back, that sucks. Look at how many seconds are in 12 hours. It's 43,200. It's 432 in our own system of timekeeping. And again, then if you take, if that's 43,200 in 12 hours, in day and night would be 864 again, the octave of 432. So 2020, wait, yeah, Coop, I'm gonna blow past this stuff. All right, getting to the 864,000 seconds that are in 24 hours, 43,200 in 12 hours. The diameter of the sun is 864,000 miles across, or 2 times 432. The diameter of the moon is 2,160 miles across, or 432 times 2. So when you start to understand that our physical reality, when I tell you it's created by 432 based cosmic harmonious frequency star knowledge, it's not like woo-woo, this is science, Our own sun and moon, because it's built of light, everything we know, including ourselves, light has a frequency of 432 as its central point multidimensionally. It's pretty amazing, actually. So when I tell you that 432 hertz squared becomes light and our reality is entirely made up of this light, this is not New Age mumbo jumbo. It's science fact. There is no doubt that the Anunnaki are communicating. We are living in a 432 hertz base frequency reality from the time system we use to the Earth's 25,920 year precessional cycle, to the actual dimensions of the celestial objects in our own solar system. Numbers give the key. Way back in time, before writing was ever invented, it was measures and counting that provided the armature, the frame on which the rich texture of real myth was to grow. This is the King's List from ancient Sumer. We're still going through how 432 has been encoded in all of our world's histories and world religions. King's List for the rain, just go down and add them up. It's 432,000 time division. When you look at the Kali Yugas and the times that each one is for, well, right there is 432,000. The next one was 864. But interestingly, when you add them all together, it's another 432. So it's not coincidental. And this is way written back in stone, you know? Ancient commentary on these numbers is interesting. For Berosus, the last priest of Marduk, 432,000 was the Babylonian Great Year. Isn't that interesting? The dimensions of the Great Pyramid correspond to the dimensions of our planet at a scale of 1 to 432,000. The original height of the pyramid was 481.3949 feet. So take the height of the pyramid and you multiply it by 43,200 and you get the true dimensions, and then take the base and do the same thing. It's the accurate dimensions of planet Earth. It's freaking crazy. Right here it says well, look at the math. Base perimeter of the Great Pyramid is 3,023.16 feet. That times 432,000 is one. It's, you know what, I'm not even going to attempt that number right now. But it equals 24,734.94 miles. That happens to be the equatorial circumference of planet Earth. Yeah, that's just the base perimeter. The height, when multiplied by 43,200, or 432,000, I am so sorry. But look at what I've written and not what I'm saying. It's all 432 though, baby. I hope you enjoyed my 432 hertz connection between the precessional cycle and hyperdimensional physics, how energy works and flows through multiple dimensions, and how it's all coded into the precessional cycle. That's going to go from that part of this cosmic harmonious frequency conversation, because that 5-disc communication set and being guided into the importance of the 432 frequency, not only in sound, but in Earth history, of truly starting to uncode why the precessional cycle was encoded in all these ancient cultures. Because if you're not a musician, you'll miss it. It's note information and it's provable scientifically now. So, starting to understand these principles, I'm a guitarist. I went into my studio and I recorded my guitar's A note, but I was meticulous, making sure it was tuned properly to 432 hertz. I recorded 20 seconds of the sound coming out of my Joe Satriani guitar amplifier. It's important in the story. It's so cool, but we'll get to that. I hire these scientists who have a company called Simoscope, and they're the leaders in today's scientific technology to make frequency visible. And I sent them 20 seconds of my guitar just going bow, 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 nothing fancy, you know. And they put that through their machinery, and they contacted me and said, you know, we've never seen anything like what we're seeing. They said, we've used this technology to image everything, from every known frequency to man, to baby noises, to they become famous because they've developed a language to communicate with dolphins through cymatics. And there's a great TED Talk by these actual scientists behind Simoscope. So type in Simoscope, TED Talk. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is truly the result of their imaging my Joe Satriani amp and my Steve Vai guitar tuned properly to my A note equaling 432 hertz. They said, we've never seen anything like this. They said it's encoding all of the 5 platonic solids of sacred geometry, but it's also got a toroidal donut with the golden mean Fibonacci sequence. Toroidal physics in action, first time photographed ever. And they said, the only thing that we can, oh, by the way, look, around it is binary code. Figure that out. It's just my guitar. How is there binary code in it even? But they said they think the difference in why this super multi-dimensionality has come through is they've never imaged an electric rock guitar amp before. Yeah, man. They said good guitar amps are using tube technology. It's organic. It's old school. You know, it's probably the only things truly still using vacuum tube technology is good guitar amps. Because if you want that, what you call the brown sound, you know, that beautiful tube sound that Eddie Van Halen gets and Steve Vai and Joe Satriani, it's because of tubes. And they said they think that the tubes is what's creating that, the tube amp as the sound source with my hands playing it and meticulously tuned properly created this. And it's because of they've never imaged an electric rock guitar amp. It is funny, man. It's like, well, rock god magic. Yes. So I had learned how to do these crystal discs I was talking about. And I thought, I wondered what would happen if I took this cymatic image and I encased it in quartz crystal glass, really high quality glass crystal. And I wrapped it with a copper wrap. This is the technology I previously learned anyhow. It was called Pleiadian energy discs. And pretty much they said what was really important is what sacred geometry and geometry you were putting into the disc, encoding it with it. So I thought, what if I used one of these Mother Nature's sacred geometry? What I learned was there's so much actual geometry encoded into these cymatic images, you wouldn't even believe it. The complexity and how it's way deeper of communication than a digitized Photoshop picture of sacred geometry coming out of a computer. That's what, nothing against it, nothing against sacred geometry, anything, but it's not Mother Nature, you know, and that's the difference. So I encoded it in this disc. That's what you're looking at right there. Isn't it beautiful? And I'm just going to sit here and look at it for a minute. That's a 6-inch version. I make 3-inch and 2-inch versions of each design. This particular, they gave me back 2 different images. One, I had the normal human chakra colors from red on the outside of the disc through all the colors of the rainbow to purple on the donut. and all 7 colors of the rainbow go from outside to inside on this disc. But we also created the same image in reverse because I've learned from some of the elders of the Native American Indian culture, they believe that when someone has went through the ascension process, that truly your chakras reverse. So no longer is red in your root, it's purple in your root now, you know? And it's purple in your root and red in the crown chakra. But if you overlap the same frequency over the last one, it just all comes out white. And one of the grandmother elders, you know, she told me about how each chakra has tetrahedron spinning. And as I said, they all have to be emitting light. And not until then does Spirit grant anybody for their thoughts to go to Creator with great enthusiasm. So, the whirling rainbow. But when it's reversed, maybe I have it, no I don't. Just picture that color scheme reversed then, because I learned most Native American Indians see after ascension your chakras flip. So that version has purple on the outside to red on the inside. And I look at it as a push-pull kind of thing, and they're both very needed. But the creation of that disc and just the contact I've had led me to Richard Hoagland, you know, famous, contacted me and wanted to know if I would be on his radio show. And, you know, what he released was Michael Hill's 432 hertz based numerical values, which turned out to be the same key numbers marking the Earth's 25,920 year precessional cycle, and thus the same key numbers crucial to the cyclic activation of hyperdimensional physics on Earth. Richard C. Hoagland. So he said, Michael, we know your story sounds batshit crazy to most people, but, you know, NASA knows. They've been looking into how energy works multidimensionally for a very long time, and they know that this energy is tied to the Earth's 25,920 year precessional cycle. Thought that was very interesting to begin with. And he said, NASA knows your numbers are right on the money, and I would like to arrange for one of NASA's biophysicists to look into your work. And so obviously I was absolutely blown away. Now on to 2019 scientific proof. This has never before been observed in water studies. Biophysicist Beverly Rubik, PhD. I'm going to pass that. The observed decrease in the area of the light pattern along with an increase in light intensity suggests that the light pattern becomes narrower and more focused upon disc treatment. She's talking about the 432 hertz disc that I sent her with that, you know, that cymatic image of the 432 frequency encased in crystal glass with the copper wrap. This is my technology that I'm bringing from above, it's the image is what contains the mojo, by the way. And we'll get into that. Man, this microphone. That was just my pen on my table. Sorry, that was me flipping it and playing music. All right, I'm done. This has never been observed in water studies on other imprinted products designed to structure water. Such products typically increase both the area and the intensity of the light pattern. This is huge, because what she's saying is all the other systems of restructuring water they've tested, the actual periphery of the light output gets bigger but more diffused. And in my technology, it's making it more focused and smaller with more energy and brighter. That's what they're saying. So if you think about it, it's almost like you got a magnifying glass and you're trying to burn a leaf. And as you move the magnifying glass up, the circle gets smaller and smaller, but brighter and brighter until it combusts. This technology is doing that to water and opening up a portal, which energy, photonic energy, life, it's hard, to wrap your head around it. You're going to see what I'm talking about, so I'm going to shut up for a minute. I found that your disk caused smaller patterns of light to be emitted from the treated water compared to controls. However, those smaller patterns of light were more intense than light patterns from controls that were more diffuse. I really don't know what this means. Please understand that healers treating water or ionization process or other energy treatments that I have tested have always produced larger patterns of light than controls. It appears that your treatment process focuses the light pattern or beam emitted from water by the photonic energy, from water by high voltage electrophotography or GDV photography, biophysicist Beverly Rubik, PhD. What I want to do is actually release these scientific GDV voltage electrophotography photos. That's a mouthful. But first, let me share a GDV photo of a normal droplet of water as a control. Well, I'm not good at just reading. What the GDV camera records and picks up is photons of light energy within the droplet of water. Here you got a water droplet of municipal tap water before. And this is actually not Beverly's photo. I talk with other biophysicists now and got some of their images because I wanted to compare of municipal tap water and distilled water, which I didn't have any results. I think it's in here actually. But the next is a droplet of distilled water as another control to see how much energy is within the water. That's distilled water. All right, this is from our own study from Beverly Rubik. She said that this was actually maybe a little smaller than it should have been because she thinks there might have been a problem with the voltage setting, but it's damn close because you'll see. She's saying that should have, it looks about like the other, non-treated water samples from all the other studies, so I'm showing you now. The next two photos are that same California tap water droplet from above, but after sitting on one of my 432 hertz energy disks for about a half hour. This is my water energy study GDV photo number 1. It's a little bit bigger, huh? That's the actual GDV photograph of the same California tap water that had been sitting on one of my 432 energy disks for 15 minutes. It's mind-blowing. There's so much more photonic energy. And imagine, this is in every droplet of water that you could then drink. Would you rather drink water that every molecule, droplet of water is putting out this type of energy for your cells to use for their immunity system and to heal itself? Would you rather have this going down your throat or that little droplet of light water that was this before the technology? It's truly amazing, man. It's turning dead water into holy water, or you could call it living water. And they already know, even with not this is the most advanced water restructuring technology they've ever seen. But even with old, I don't want to call it old, anything, if you bring energy into water, hallelujah, But it makes a huge difference in agriculture and the crops that are grown, and they become impervious to drought, and they grow bigger and larger, and they have a higher nutritional content per unit of a tomato. Think of that, if every bite that you took of a potato had over twice the amount of nutrition in each bite. That's what we're talking about. And it happens when you use water that has been revitalized and its energy brought back to its divine energetic blueprint, you know? Here's the second photo. They took 6, by the way, and by the way, I have all this data, all of the photography, all of the actual results of looking into the photography by NASA, and I am totally will share the whole information packet with any researchers or media or TV that want to take a look at it. It's the real deal. This is disclosure, obviously, and it's absolute fact of communication between myself and the Anunnaki. So we'll move forward. That's the second photo out of 6. It's just amazing. But they also did a test with Canadian spring water. It was called Flow. I guess it's a brand in Canada that's pretty popular. So they took this Flow Canadian spring water instead of municipal tap water. It was a lot more vibrant, by the way, like nothing like the dead municipal tap water. But I do have that photography as well, but I'd be here all day if I went through everything. This is a photo after 15 minutes of the Canadian spring water. Yeah. They also tested Neve water that had the slightest effect, but they said it started a trending. It just didn't happen as fast as tap water had the biggest effect. It seems like if the water is really healthy and you're getting it from a well or a stream, it still does. Look at what you're looking at. This is from a Canadian spring of really healthy water. But I was saying where's this energy coming from? She answered, another dimension. The sacred geometry contained in my 432 Hz ancient Anunnaki technology energy disks restructures the water, revitalizing and energizing it, turning almost dead with very little energy municipal tap water back into holy living water. Using cymatic technology, these sacred geometries manifest into 2D from the power of sound waves alone. True story. We have all these different things: earth cycles, time, and celestial measurements, geometry and frequency, yet they all represented by the same numbers over and over and over again. 432, 216, 108, 54, 27, 144, over and over. I hope this made it a little bit clearer on why our ancient societies were so focused on encoding 432 based new physics that would guide mankind into unlimited free energy